Within the 1950s, America was swayed by a nationwide protest that was the Civil Rights Movement. Activists involved sought to secure full political, social, and economic rights for African Americans, which were restricted due to the strict Jim Crow rules and traditional racist values that enforced exclusion and segregation on people of color. However, many opposing forces attempted to contest the Civil Rights Movement, such as groups like the White Citizen Council and the Ku Klux Klan, or individuals such as Dwight D. Eisenhower and J. Edgar Hoover. The opposing organizations, such as the White Citizens Council and the KKK, were primarily built on traditional religious values, which attracted those from the South to partake in these far-right organizations, despite claiming to be national. The KKK was described as the first organized terror movement in American history, and had peaking somewhere between 35,000 and 50,000 members, which were from diverse classes during the events with the civil rights. The KKK upheld traditional values as displayed in the 1920 primary literary source of Principles and Purpose of the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, which presents the values of the organization as the Klan stands for law and order, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of conscience, for the free public schools, separation of church and state, white supremacy, and Protestant Christianity. As evidence, the KKK had focused on upholding white supremacy in the United States, who knew, which is reiterated by the violence that they inflicted on both white and black civil rights activists, such as the Mississippi burning murders, firebombing 30 homes and 37 churches, and other violent methods against the activists, which the FBI investigated, but due to lack of evidence of manipulation from the KKK, the investigations surrounding the events were closed, but this could also be due to J. Edgar Hoover's personal bias against civil rights. The White Citizens Council, nicknamed the Uptown Klan because of the higher middle-class citizens involved in the organization, was initially made to oppose the decision from the Brown v. Board of Education to desegregate schools, with members utilizing the money/power to transfer public schools in Mississippi to private and to refuse African American students entry. This group had about 60,000 members across the South and United States during the Civil Rights Movement. They utilized their power to implement economic boycotts, sacking workers and spreading propaganda and inciting violence against African Americans and civil rights activists. These tactics can be seen with the Montgomery bus boycotts, which is described by the modern literary source 2, which iterates that the White Citizens Council attempted multiple strategies to stop the boycott, from prosecuting the boycott organizers to pressuring insurance agencies throughout the South to cancel policies for church-owned vehicles. This highlights that economic power members of the White Citizens Council utilized as an attempt to hold the boycotting, showcasing the significant influence of civil rights as an opposing group, even being able to influence legal systems as evidenced by the primary literary source 3. Written by Warren Olney III in 1956 as a response to Martin Luther King's inquiry about the violent actions the White Citizens Council committed, the information concerning the alleged violence, the activities of the White Citizens Council and the like officers does not appear to indicate violations of federal criminal statutes. This evidence displays how, although the White Citizens Council displayed explicit acts of racist accents that included the bombing of Montgomery Improvement Association members' homes, or a mouthful, and the sculptural representations of a white and black men who talked integration, were hung in Montgomery, were ignored by the government and justice system, who possibly used personal connections to get out of legal situations surrounding the civil rights movement. Therefore, organizations that opposed the civil rights movement, such as the KKK and the White Citizens Council, attempted to intimidate civil rights movements with either violent actions or economic manipulation, which would significantly impact and halt the actions during the movement, but activists still persevered during these times of discrimination. Plenty of individuals were against the principles that the civil rights movement was pushing forward, some with varying importance, such as journalists, community leaders, and elected officials. However, those in elected positions significantly influenced the civil rights movement, such as American President Dwight D. Eisenhower, with his presidency term lasting from 1953 to 1961, was known for avoiding moral questions at hand. He did not champion the need for equality and fairness in America, nor did he embrace the Brown decision. Eisenhower did not enact immediate action when faced with issues surrounding civil rights. In the secondary literary source 4 from modern historian William Hitchcock on the civil rights, he expressed moderate opinions in the face of men whose views were immoderate. He sought gradual change from where others sought immediate progress or not at all, which represents, although not entirely against the concept of civil rights movement, evidenced by his September 24th Executive Order 10730 and him signing the Civil Rights Act of 1957, he did not cease all racist actions that the groups conducted on these civil rights activists, such as the White Citizens Council, evident by Source 3. These instances communicated that although Eisenhower held enough power to assist civil rights activists, his avoidance of immediate action surrounding the movement displays him as a notable force that did not openly support civil rights for African Americans. Another individual who held an influential position during the Civil Rights Movement was FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover. Hoover held a dislike against the Civil Rights Movement and the figures making documents that reveal and confirm the kind of rude investment in anti-blackness and quelling dissent that has been long a part of our government structure. The objective being to expose, disrupt, misdirect, miscredit, or otherwise neutralize the radical effort for black rights and black power. These investigations expose Hoover's personal bias against the civil rights movement, even targeting figureheads of the civil rights movement such as MLK and Malcolm X for possible involvement in communist activities, displaying Hoover's utilization of the rampant fear of McCarthyism against these figures as an attempt to turn the media against them. Thus, this evidence displays J. Edgar Hoover as a significant opposition to the civil rights movement due to his prejudice against African Americans, as evidenced by the multiple documents he made to reveal his and the government's racial fear against the movement. Therefore, significant opposing figures within the civil rights movement came in many forms. Groups such as the KKK and WCC had large numbers of people with prejudiced views against the African Americans, which allowed these organizations to have more significance over civil rights individuals such as elected officials like President Eisenhower and J. Edgar Hoover. Their influence overall caused some significant halts within the civil rights movement due to their bias against African Americans.